Hey guys, I'm here with Robert Onken of Self-Reliance Mindset, and he's an instructor here at Campcraft Outdoors. How long you been with me now, Rob? About 6 years?
6 years.
About 6 years. So Rob's been coming out here for quite a while now, and he's seen me at my worst and maybe my best. I don't know about that, but he's definitely been here to go through some stuff. And let's start off with how we met. How did we first meet one another, and what really led you to coming out to Campcraft?
I think we kind of met through the online portion of Dave.
Okay.
Dave Canterbury.
Okay.
We became friends on Facebook, and
Okay.
then I realized you had a school, and you was one of his instructors at that time.
So we didn't meet at the gathering first, and then that happened?
I met you before the gathering.
Oh, okay. Okay.
At a preppers convention in Louisville.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
And
so
I met
we
you
met
in-
first in 2015.
Yes.
At the Preparedness Expo.
Yes.
Okay. And then, oh wow, I
And
didn't
then
know it was that
come out
far
here-
back.
Yeah, and then I
Okay.
come back for I took the Survival Adventure Network shoots. Was the first time I was out here on property.
Okay, okay, yeah, because you won that one, right?
I don't know about winning it.
Yeah, well,
it
you
was
were-
It was a 5C.
Oh, that's
here.
right.
That was
Okay,
a-
that's
that
right.
was a
All right,
5C.
now I remember. So, yeah, the Survival Adventure Network, or sand shoots, as we used to call them, was we would take people out on some random survival adventure, and they'd have to undergo some survival-based challenges. You've been following me for any length of time. You've probably seen some of that on Pathfinder TV back when we did that on the old camp on this channel way back when, several years back. So that's pretty cool. So it went back, and I remember I met the family the first time at the gathering.
At the gathering,
That's what it was.
Yep.
Okay. So right around that time, that's when you started coming out here to train.
Yep.
I remember you and Kevin Johnson specifically around the campfire. Was that the first night you all came out to class? Or?
I was out here for a sand shoot, but that was like a year and a half before I started actually
Yeah.
doing the instructor program training. out
Okay,
here.
so that was really the first
That's
class.
when Kevin started coming out. Was
Okay.
the first instructor program
Okay.
trainings that
All
I was
right.
doing.
So, you know, background out of the way, what was your religious upbringing before you got here? Like, did you have any, or
Yes.
how'd that kind of go?
I grew up ever since I was born is Baptist or Bible background.
Okay. Now I know when we met, you didn't have any strong belief
No.
or anything like
No,
that.
I was
right?
running hard
Okay.
and stuff. But like I told you at the time that the talk or anything that didn't offend me, or I didn't
Right.
shun it or anything like that.
Yeah. So basically, he knew that I had a ministry background when they started coming here for instructor training and for a long series of classes, essentially in survival and bushcraft. And he was very open and says, you wasn't religious at all. You didn't mind me talking.
I was a believer, but I wasn't a follower.
Right. So, you hear me harp on that all the time. People know about God, but they don't have a relationship with Him. And that's exactly where you were.
Mm-hmm.
You knew enough about it to have an opinion formed, but you didn't have that relationship, right?
That's correct.
So, I remember that night around the campfire, you all asked me a series of questions, and it was way more than you could handle.
I don't remember asking any questions at all.
Maybe it was
I just
Kevin.
that I think it was Larry.
Okay.
Larry Brown was there at that one
Okay.
too. I remember just sitting back and just taking it all in. There was a series of I had questions before, like from being a teenager, that I could really never get any answers to at the time. And it seemed like every question that I had back then was being answered around the campfire that night with you at our first campfire run. And that got me, that woke me up. It was like and of course it wasn't like an overnight change.
Yep.
There was quite a few questions and conversations between me and you over time. And
Maybe you can't really put your finger on it. What was the thing that made you really connect the dots and say, you know what, I want that relationship with Jesus, and I want to really immerse myself and then my family into this. Do you remember? Can you articulate that?
There was more questions. Of course, as Baptists, why do we believe that?
Okay.
I want to know why we believe it, and instead of getting that's what we believe, because that's what we believe.
Right.
I want to know why we believe it. Show me where. And then there was a lot of gray areas. Well, how do you come to that point that that's why we believe that way? Then and
So the things that really kept you maybe out of church attendance regularly, or maybe from pursuing the relationship initially, is because you were hit with so much tradition, so much, well, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
So accept it and do it, because that's what we all do. So that's pretty much what kind of built the wall to keep you out.
I don't think that I realized that I could have a personal relationship.
But that's what the Baptists preach at us all the time. You can have personal relationships as long as you do what we say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And once I found that personal relationship, then things really changed.
Yeah. And I can testify to that, because you didn't just dip your toe in. You dove in head first, swimming toward the bottom, and you and then your wife, really got serious about the Lord. And it was a radical change over a short period of time, and that was really cool to see. How has your growth kind of developed it's been years now, a few years, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, so in those years, what kind of things has changed maybe in your day-to-day or in how you interact with your family, that was religious or not religious? I know a little bit, and I'm not going to try to muddy the water so much, but maybe you can share some stuff there.
Stand out is my temperament.
Okay.
I don't, and you've seen it, I don't fly off the handle near as fast. It used to be a really hair trigger. When I would get upset, it would be 0 to 180 like a snap of a finger.
Okay.
And now it's more, it's slow to anger.
Yeah.
Not saying it doesn't bother me or what,
Sure.
it's just how I approach things, and I'm not saying the way I do it now is perfect, but that's still a learning problem. But
what kind of changes have you seen in the family over the past 4 or 5 years?
I can't force anything on, so not 100% of my family is on board. And they don't live, but live the way I would like to see them live.
Well, you got adult kids.
Yes,
too.
I have.
And,
yeah,
that's a lot of things. Is that you come to the relationship part with the Lord later in life. You already had adult children, so you only had one teen in the house at that point, and then of course you had a new baby just a couple years ago.
Yep.
So. But let's just take it back from the teen, and I know as with all teenagers, there's some hardships and a retraining, because she was raised a certain way, right, up to a certain point.
Yeah.
So
and it's still a learning process of how to to handle with them.
Right.
The adult ones that are out of the house now, I mean, really, I can only show by example.
Right.
If the conversation comes up, we can talk about it or whatever. We still do have a teen, an older teen in the house. We get some pushbacks still with daily things.
Sure. But the big thing is too, you pulled her out of school.
Yes.
And you were homeschooling.
Yes.
Right. So that was one big transitional change you made, and that resulted in a pretty radical shift just from an outsider's perspective. And we only get to see her every few months, maybe, or if that. But from that perspective, we could see the change take place in her. And sure, there's still issues that she's grown up. But beyond that, there was still a radical change. But what about you and Patty specifically in your relationship? How has that gotten better or improved? Or has it? Maybe it's created more friction in certain areas, right?
No, I think we are closer now than what we had ever had been before.
That's awesome. So, in-laws, right? Constant. We deal with this as well. Parents believe a certain way because that's the way they were raised, or their grandma told me this, and that's just the way it is, and that's what I choose to believe. Whether or not it's right, many of us fall under this category. Well, that's why you're telling me my grandma went to hell because I didn't do this way. It's not what I'm saying. Bible might say that, but maybe nobody told grandma.
Yeah.
Right? So she didn't have that burden of truth, to have that understanding. Different times as well. The Lord's always revelating, giving new information, teaching, and knowledge. Yeah. Not that it's necessarily new, but the understanding we have of what the Scripture says, and the application is more poignant for today in certain respects.
Yep.
So, looking at that and the relationships with the extended family, what type of hardships have you faced coming to faith, trying to raise adult children, or demonstrate to them, lead by example? What hardships are you seeing in the extended family?
I don't know, I usually don't worry about it now at this point, but it's
you had to have a point to where you said peace.
Yes,
right?
there was. This is the way I'm doing it, and and that's what you take the holidays for example. It's been 3 or 4 years now since we haven't been doing the holidays with the extended family. They've just come to the terms they don't push back all that much about it anymore. Excuse me. We just meet at other times,
right?
And to get together, we just don't do the ceremonial holidays with them in that aspect anymore. And
what did you think that was probably one of the biggest
that was
hardships
the biggest,
right there?
Yeah,
really?
Biggest hardships with the extended family the first couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's still every now and then a topic of conversation when we're together. And
and I mean, you want to know if an idol has power over you? Get rid of it. Then you'll know. If you get a lot of blowback and pushback, that means somebody's giving it a lot of power over their life.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right. Just means it's demonic baggage that needs to go. Generational garbage that we've been told. Jeremiah tells us in his wonderful book, the prophet Jeremiah says we've inherited nothing but lies from our forefathers. So there's a lot of that in the church today, and as you well know, these things have to be cut off of us. Have you started to change your study? Because before you didn't do any Bible reading or Bible study or prayer or nothing. It was just, you believe, but God does what He does, right? What's changed in that realm with you?
Well, when I decided, I was going to follow, I started reading, reading the Word. Then I got really into it, and sometimes life gets in the way, but and it seems like I always yearn for it, and I end up going back to it. I might have to take a break for a bit, and
would you say maybe a hunger to know more of the Word?
Yes.
Was ignited in you?
Yes, I wanted to know the truth, and if it's in the Bible, then it's got to be the truth. So
right, and that's that's something that a lot of people miss, is that when you enter into that relationship with Jesus, the real relationship, there's a hunger for truth. But who is truth? Jesus. There's a hunger for the Word. Who is the Word? Jesus. So there's just a hunger for all things Jesus. And the more we seek that out, the more of Him, and the deeper our understanding and depth of that relationship gets, with Him. And that's really, really cool to see. At what point did you get baptized?
I was baptized as a kid, as a Baptist, but it wasn't wasn't until here this last summer during a ministry camp.
Oh, during the ministry camp. That was the first one that counted.
Somebody got their hands on me. And,
okay. Now, see, that would bring up a point of contention for certain people, because, there's people that say, well, you just said it with your own mouth. Well, I got baptized as a Baptist. And I'm sure you said a prayer that meant you were saved as a Baptist, right? Mm-hmm. And some would say, well, once saved, always saved. You were always saved, Rob, because you said the prayer back then. How did you live between then and before you really got saved?
Not very good.
Right.
And
prodigal son.
look back on that first baptism when I was a kid, I think it was more of I was in a Christian school at that time, and of course Sunday school and stuff. I think it was more of a peer pressure thing. All the rest of the kids were doing it, so it was like jump on board and I'm getting in line with them. I don't want to be the only one.
Out. Yeah, I get it. Hey, I got baptized 8 times. I said a prayer every week for good God for years. And that didn't mean anything to me other than just, hey, let's get this over with, or to placate my uncle or whoever was there at the time. And it's like salvation isn't something to be lost, but there are conditions, right? Mm-hmm. The conditions are, if you follow me, if you obey my commands, then. So the conditions, as long as we seek to be in a right relationship with God, you can't lose salvation like you lose keys. But could I give the gift away? Could I turn my back on it and die in that state? Yeah, separated from God. I believe absolutely you can, and there's plenty of scripture to support that. Far more scripture to support that than it's, again, if you're really born again, and this is now argument of semantics, just the way you want to word it, you can't lose your salvation if you're seeking to be in a relationship with the Lord at all, right? Because He's never going to take it away from you.
You may mess up, but as long as you're seeking and open to correction and reproof from Him,
exactly.
Then, I don't.
And so I think that people really need to quit the word play around that and really get to the heart of the matter, because the next argument ringing in my head at the moment, I hear somebody, well, God knows our heart. Yeah, and He said it was deceitful and desperately wicked. Mm-hmm. So we don't trust that. Mm-hmm. So we are born of sin and flesh, and we have problems. We are unclean, defiled vessels. Yes. And it's only through that relationship with the Lord and full submission to the Holy Spirit as best as we can that we are sanctified or made clean. All that said, over the past couple years, you've become more involved as an instructor, and you've done some outdoor ministry on your own. Mm-hmm. You've dipped your toe in the water a little bit, and like you said, last year we did a ministry camp. We did about a 5-day camp, and basically the premise of that camp was we got together with a bunch of like-minded folks, and we did some outdoor skills, but beyond that, we just had an encounter with the presence and power of God.
Yes.
And I think everybody left changed from that meeting. There was some pretty cool stuff that happened. But the Lord had something there appointed for every single person. Everybody got a unique word directly for them. A lot of people had some demonic baggage they were holding on to, and there were a lot of other things. We all got corrected, every one of us in some way, shape, or form. It was really good and beneficial. Everyone got baptized. Some had not, maybe you want to say backslidden, or some just, a couple of them wasn't even saved, and they were in church ministry or serving in the church in some way, shape, or form. And they weren't saved at all. So we led them to the Lord for real, and they got baptized. So that was really empowering. And that's something else we do here is we baptize. Mm-hmm. Pretty regular. Baptism was not a one-time thing ever in the church. It was something they did pretty regularly. The mikveh, and we do that pretty regular. And it's a great time to recommit and cleanse yourself and shake off the old and rededicate. But so you did that. It was right after that meeting. You were a little more gung-ho. How did you really approach when you did your outdoor ministry camp? Did you just kind of
I
do what we try to do here?
I had a place, yes. I was trying to somewhat duplicate what we did here, but on a weekend basis instead of the 4 or 5 day one we had out here. Let's do Friday night, Saturday night, and if somebody needed to go to church on Sunday or whatever, then they could, go ahead. I reached out to a few acquaintances and friends that were in different denominational churches, and we had basically it was a assistant pastor, his father and father-in-law, and I that ended up showing up, and we had really good discussion.
That's good.
And about continuing on that. They did not want to do it in the wintertime.
Oh, sure. Right.
Because I was looking at doing something, at least starting out once a quarter or something like that. So I haven't met with them guys again yet. The second approach that I did with that was I just threw it out on Facebook and social media. I'm going to be at this camp this weekend at this certain time, and if you want to come out, hang out, eat some food, and let's celebrate and worship the Lord together out here in God's creation, and come on out. I was out there by myself, so
yeah,
and I didn't consider that as a failure because I had a really awesome time. Yeah, I went out and met with the Lord.
Yeah.
So, and I had a really good time. Now, I didn't stay out there all weekend.
Yeah.
But I still got I got what I went there for. So.
And that's something I think a great takeaway for a lot of people, because a lot of people they want to know what is outdoor ministry or how do I do outdoor ministry. And the first thing is you just do it. Number one, that's one approach. Hey, anybody wants to come out, I'm going to be here this day, this time. I'm camping, and I'm going to be talking about the Lord and just worshiping the Lord, and we'll hang out and do some cool stuff together.
Yep.
Nobody showed up for you. I've been there before too, as you know, but you had your encounter, and as long as you're being obedient, you're going to have your encounter. Get what you need from the Lord. Take it forward to the next one. Never think that you're wasting time and being obedient, taking those initial steps. But your very first out of the gate, you did have some people, and I know a lot of people are fearful of that as well, because you had religious people, and they're coming at you with religious questions.
I think at that point I was looking at let's draw in. I met with them to see if we could draw in some of their youth and some of their men council and stuff from their churches, and to where the second one would hopefully generate more people.
Right. And I think that really speaks volumes as to what is your motivation for wanting to be in an outdoor ministry or build something in that regard. What's the motivation behind it? Is it to lift up the name of Jesus? Is it to build fellowship and community for yourself because you need friends? Is it just to have a small gathering to stroke your ego? There are a lot of really deep things that you need to go through and evaluate before you get into wanting to do outdoor ministry. Really seek out the root of the motivation. This is something I've had to battle because when I started, it was out of frustration. I just didn't want to do church the way I'd been doing it for that decade. And it was not very fruitful, in my opinion. Had an awesome time, did a lot of cool stuff. To me, it wasn't what I knew it wasn't what I was supposed to do. But then it became let's stroke my ego and not be broke anymore kind of thing. And then had to work through that phase of life, and stayed broke and humbled for a long time because of that. Inappropriate response to the leading of God. And so repent, go back again, and even now, when I have an event, why do I want to have this event? I'm always really harsh. I'm my harshest critic, no question, when it comes to doing these things. And if God's not in it and opening every door, I'm not going to do it. I just don't want to waste my time. I'm more effective sitting here making a video than I would be out trying to force my way into class and go through the motions. I don't get nothing out of doing a class anymore, right? I'm not learning anything. Trained thousands of people for almost 20 years. You ain't learning a whole lot more. There's not survival wise, right?
Yeah.
It's just the interaction with people, and that's what fuels it for me. And how can I impact that person with the gospel, with Jesus? Do I have to be harsh to get through to them, or is it a softer approach? And you've seen both with me, no question, right? I've punched it right down your throat at times, and at other times it's like, we just throw it out there like I'm feeding some chickens, and they'll come back and pick it up. It's really cool when the Lord leads you to do it different ways. But also, sometimes it's hard to handle, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it comes across weird, and it's weird to me. I mean, you've seen me crawl up people and just really rake them hard over the coals, and I'm not nice. I'll get loud and yelling, and some choice words are coming out. But when you're dealing with men that are equipped a certain way, and most of the people we deal with are alpha personalities for the most part, right? Alpha males, and think they're tougher than they are, and a lot of bravado. There's only one way to knock all that down, and there's always somebody bigger and badder than you on the block, and I have to act like I'm that guy at times. So you really have to implement a lot of these different strategies, or really pray these things out. It's all done in love, but love is very harsh at times. And I think Mike Denny actually said that a few weeks back, and when he was sharing his testimony, Greg and Mike were talking in that video, and he said, love comes out very harshly at times, especially here. And it's a unique atmosphere in outdoor ministry. Something that you're learning, and I've seen you dole it out as well, many times on students and family, a few times, and it's been really cool to see, because when you started, that wasn't in you. You were more very much, I don't know what else to say. To me, it was a subservient, just a little more under the radar kind of thing. And then once the Lord got a hold of him, it's like a spiritual authority came on you and back into your home, and it radically flipped really fast. And that authority carried over to when you started teaching classes and things of that nature. And that's when you seen Rob and authority, the tone of everything changed, tone of voice and demeanor, the whole nine. And that's very empowering when the Lord comes on somebody in that way, because you're able to see it, and you're able to see the fruit that comes from that.
And I didn't see it.
Yeah, but me and Aaron, we were like, wow. And it's really exciting to see these things happen. So I think that's important takeaways for people that are really struggling with outdoor ministry, and that don't know you very well, because you are kind of a low-key guy. You kind of play in the background a whole lot more. Check him out at Self-Reliant Mindset. You do some homesteading projects.
Yep.
He's a tinkerer, so I'm not at all, as you know, but he's a mechanically inclined and highly skilled in that area, and he's always got a million different projects and a lot of interesting stuff.
Never get them done.
Well,
I'll never get them done.
but still, you got stuff going on. So check Rob out at Self-Reliant Mindset.